Hello, so this is going to be the soldering tutorial. In this video I'll go over the parts included inside of the soldering kit and some other things you might want to pick up to make the process better. So right here is the soldering iron. This is the soldering iron. It's the part that actually gets hot and that melts the solder and then makes those bonds. Right now I have the temperature set at 700 degrees. Anywhere between I think 680 to 720 Fahrenheit is fine. You can put it higher if you want to. It's completely up to you, and you'll kind of find your style the more that you do it. These are the helping hands. These are what will hold your component when you're soldering. So for example, you can clip this right here so that you have both hands free. You'll have one holding the solder, and then you have one holding the soldering iron. Right here is a sponge. It should be wet. I'm going to go wet it before I start soldering. This is just to clean the iron. And then there's also this. This is another thing to clean your soldering iron. Right here, we have a set of wire cutters. This is a really nice pair. It basically pulls the wire and splits it like that. So that's how I was able to get the wires like this. Here is some solid core wire. The jumper wires for the breadboards are too thin to make a good connection for soldering, so I always recommend using solid core wire. Here we have the actual solder. This is the one that I had ordered this semester. I got one without lead in it. I can't read this. I don't know what it says. I hope it doesn't have lead. Regardless, it's good to be in an area with ventilation or to have a fan going, blowing the smoke away from you so that you don't breathe in any toxins that might be in the solder. This is the power buses that I soldered. Positive, negative, or positive, negative, whichever. I'm gonna be soldering that right now, and I'll show you a little bit in the video as well. This is a desoldering wick, so if you have any mistakes, you use this little piece right here. You can cut off a piece, heat it up with a soldering iron, and then it'll soak up solder. If you get solder on one of these holes right here, you can get some mistakes off with soldering wick or desoldering wick. Here is just some stripped solid core wire, red and black for power and ground, just so that, to keep everything organized. And then this is flux. So the good thing about using flux is that basically it makes a good bond. So in removing the oxidization, you're able to make a good bond, and the soldering comes out way cleaner. Some things you may want to keep in mind when you're soldering. I mentioned the flux. It prevents oxidization. But another thing you can do is you can do what's called tinning the soldering iron. So you would take the soldering iron, and you can see that it should be like a nice silver on the tip. You don't want that when you're soldering because that's there's oxides, so it'll make the bond between the metal and the solder not ideal. So what you can do is you can add solder to this, and then you kind of just let it stay on there, heat up, and then you wipe it off. So you'll see when you do that, that's called tinning it. Let me do a little bit more. And I should have a fan on, but now you have a nice silver shiny soldering iron, and you're ready to solder, make good connections. And if you use that with this flux, it'll make everything a lot easier. Another version of tinning can be when you're preparing it. Say if you have two wires, it makes it a lot cleaner, a lot easier to make the connection if you tin the wire, meaning you put solder onto the wire. So you use your helping hands, and then you'd put some solder onto the edge of the wire. You would do that to both wires. So if you're joining these, tin both of these ends before you join them, so it prepares them to be joined. So it would look like a little teardrop. All you do is apply heat. Since there's already solder there, you don't need to apply solder to the iron. You simply say these are tinned. You would go like this, and then just the iron will melt the solder on each wire, and it'll make a nice connection. So that's another way that you may hear tinning with regards to soldering. So I'll go ahead and show you guys me applying the flux. I'm gonna end up actually connecting them in the middle because I think these should be long enough, and I don't want to worry about these slipping off. Since it's gonna be flying, it's just gonna solder them in the middle right here. What I'm gonna do is I'm taking it and I'm bending it so part of the wire is peeking through right here. I'm gonna apply solder to the top. But first, so my soldering iron's already cleaned. I showed you guys how, or not cleaned but tinned. I showed you guys how to do that. So I'm gonna apply some flux just to make sure that this is a solid bond. It's kind of just like you just, oh, I wasn't in the frame, I'm sorry. But if I can show you guys. So this is the flux, it's that paste on there. This is what helps with the oxidization and just gives you a clean, nice bond between the wire and the solder and then the proto board. Alright, so I'll show the process for this first one. What I did right here is I just clamped it down. By it, I mean the proto board and the wire. I clamped them down with this helping hand, so it's holding both in place. It gives me 2 free hands to grab the iron and the solder and to apply it. And I need to get some light in here, so I'm gonna move a little bit. So you can heat this up. That's the flux, so it creates that smoke. Then what I like to do, so you can apply solder to here, like to the iron, and then put it. I like to heat up the circle, the little copper circle on the actual proto board, and then like let the solder just drip off the iron. You can figure out which style you like the best, but I'll just do it this way. I actually might turn the heat up a little bit just because, and I'm sure you guys can hear my family. My little sister just got here. But there we go. And let's show you guys really quick. So here's the soldered wire. We made a nice connection. I probably could have done a better job, but now what I'm gonna do on this end is, actually I'm gonna do it on this side. I'm just gonna create a connection between this pin and this pin so that it's getting the power. I'll go ahead and repeat this process for the other, there's gonna be 7 more. So I'll do that process off camera and then I'll just show you my finished product. And then let me know what you guys think because this is gonna go on our quadcopter. If you have, like I said, if you have any questions, you can always just ask me. But yeah, I'll show you guys the finish. All right, I finished soldering. So we have 4 power, 4 ground. I made them like generally long. We can always cut these down. I just wanted to make sure that we had enough because it's always better, especially when you're using a proto board, to have too much wire than too little. Because if you have too little, you have to solder 2 wires together. That's a lot more difficult than just cutting one of these down.